Hi everyone, welcome to a science video on the circulatory system. So this is an upper block topic. It's quite a short topic actually. The main concept is quite straightforward and simple, and there's not many key phrases that you will use basically. Okay, so let's just dive into the first question. Which of the following correctly represents the direction of blood flow to a certain parts of the human body? Now, this topic is heavily related to the respiratory system, but we will cover specifically on the circulatory system only. Now, again, if you find these videos beneficial, please consider subscribing, because when I upload the videos, then you'll get a notification. Okay, so the direction of blood flow. Now, to just as a reminder how we're going to approach these science videos, we are not going to teach concept specific, we're going to teach the concepts through the questions. Okay, so one of the concepts you need to know is how the blood flows. Okay, remember that the heart is the interchange. What does it mean? It means everything comes to the heart and goes into the heart and comes out from the heart. Okay, so you will have something like that. Okay, for this purpose, I just do it the opposite like that. Okay, it doesn't matter, you can write the arrows anyway, but just remember that everything will go to the heart and will come out from the heart. So for this case, we can write lungs on top. Okay, we can write the rest of the body below. Rest of the body. Okay, there is no instances where you will have from the lungs to the rest of the body, or from the rest of the body to the lungs. There's no situation which you will have this. It's always to the heart or from the heart. Okay, if you have, let's say, another part of the body, head, still the same thing. From the heart goes to the head, from the head goes to the heart. Okay, so with this now, we can take a look at the question and we can answer the question with the help of this explanation that we've done. Here we can see the head goes to the lungs. So nope, that is wrong, because everything will go to the heart. Okay, and then from the heart will go to every part of the body, which is like what is demonstrated here. Legs goes to the heart, heart goes to the leg, heart goes to the lungs, lungs goes to the heart, head goes to the heart, and the heart goes to the head. So the answer for this is practically number 2, but let's check the rest. Now, from the lungs to the head, again wrong. And from okay, this one both goes to the head from the heart. So it's always from the head to the heart and from the heart to the head, or whatever parts of the body. Okay, next question here. Sasha's training session consists of 3 main segments, which are the warm-up, actual running, and cool down. The graph below shows the heart rate during her training session. So here we will use a key phrase to answer this question, which for this particular topic, that is the main key phrase. Which part of the graph best represents the change in Sasha's heart rate when she was running at maximum speed? Okay, so when she's running at maximum speed, her heart rate should be increasing. So that means it's at C. Why not D? D is quite high, but D, her heart rate starts to go down. And if she's running at maximum speed, her heart rate should start increasing to its maximum, not going down to from the maximum. Okay, so here is where we're going to use the key phrase. Based on the graph above, expect explain the increase in heart rate from A to C. Okay, so usually they will talk about increased heart rate. There are instances where they will talk about decreased heart rate. So this is an explain question. Of course, we have an observation, concept, conclusion. But since this is a key phrase which you can memorize, we don't need to list down the separate parts, the observation, the concept, conclusion. Alright, later on I will just list down what are the things that you need to have in order to answer this question. So we'll answer the question first. Okay, every time a question comes out about heart rate increasing, most of the time is because you need more energy. Alright, and one of the main method that we're going to use is to use we use words from the questions to in our answer. Alright, so here we will say explain the increase in heart rate from parts A to C. So we will say from parts A to C, okay, she needs more energy. Okay, so we do a comparison. We need more energy. Why do we need to compare? Because it's an increase in heart rate. Okay, so there is a difference from before, from a slower heart rate to a higher heart rate. So we say there's an increase in heart rate. So since there's an increase in heart rate, we do a comparison. Okay, we need to do a comparison. That's why we use the word more energy. Okay, so this is the increase in heart rate. Okay, so what do we write next? Now, a lot of students will make this mistake here. So the heart pumps more blood. This is the mistake that they make. The heart doesn't pump more blood. The amount of blood will remain the same. So just say the heart pumps blood. Okay, and when you talk about the heart pumping, it's always pumping blood. Do not write down pump oxygen or pump digested food or whatever. It's always pump blood, and remember, it's not more blood. The amount of blood is the same. So the heart pumps blood. Then you say what's in the blood, containing oxygen and digested food. Then we have to mention this word. It's very important. Faster. To where? To all parts of the body. Or depending on the question, sometimes they ask for a certain part of the body. Okay, so here we are not asked about a certain part of the body. Okay, so we just say pumps blood containing oxygen and digested food faster to all parts of the body. And the next part here is to increase the rate of respiration and release more energy. So this is the whole key phrase. Okay, so it's a whole phrase, as you can see here. Okay, so let's list down the things that you need to talk about. Alright, so basically it's a long phrase. Okay, but for this topic, mainly this is the only thing you usually write about. So number one, you must say need more energy. Okay, then you need to say pumps blood. Do not say more blood again. Pumps blood. Okay, and what do the blood contain? Containing oxygen and digested food. Okay, where number 4, you must say to all parts of the body or specific part, depending on the question. Okay, specific part. And what comes next? Okay, to increase the rate of respiration. And number 6, back to number 1.1 again, to release more energy. So these are the things that you need to have for this question. Okay, next question. Gerald started his exercise session with a brisk walk and then he took a rest before he continued with a few sets of jumping jacks. Which of the following graph best represents his heart rate from the start to the end of the exercise? So there's a rest in between. So it cannot be rising all the way. So there's a rest in between, and then he start off with another form of exercise. So for this one, there's a rest, it goes down, but there is no more there's no increase of heart rate after that. So the correct answer should be number 4. Why? Because this is where he start to walk, then he rest, and then he did some vigorous exercise. So answer is number 4. Question 31. This is simply just a recall question. Okay, human respiratory system, that's the clue. Do not say gullet, because gullet is not part of the respiratory system. Okay, but remember I said we are talking about actually circulatory system. Okay, and I did mention it has something to do with sorry, it's not circulatory system, here's the lungs. Okay, it has something to do with the respiratory system also. Okay, what's the function of part Y? Now, part Y is the lungs. Okay, the lungs. Okay, part Y performs gaseous exchange. So that's what you can write. Okay, so this is what you just need to say, performs gaseous exchange. Now, okay, the next part, heartbeat again, per minute during 3 different activities, X, Y, and Z. Which activity shows Peter was resting? So, if he's resting, his heart rate should not increase. It should remain constant. So, Z again here. Which one is the most vigorous activity? It has to be X, because his heart was beating the fastest. Alright, so activity X, and this is give a reason, and the reason is very simple. During, okay, let's pull this. During activity X. Alright, so again, using words from the question, don't come up with your own words. Okay, during what? During activity X, because it says that activity X. So what happened? If you want to follow exactly, you follow exactly. Heartbeats per minute. Okay, so you can say his heart beats per minute was the highest. You can say like that. Should not have, there should not be any issue. Okay, his heart beats per minute was the highest. Or if you want to rephrase, you can say his heart beat was the highest. No issue also. Or the fastest. Okay, here you can say the highest or the fastest. His heart beats per minute was the highest or was the fastest. Alright, next question. The diagram below represents 3 human body organs. Draw 2 arrows. Okay, so be careful how many arrows they want you to draw. Here they want you to draw 2 arrows to connect the body organs to show the direction of flow of blood that is rich in oxygen. We did not mention just now about the blood flow that's rich in oxygen. We just mentioned about the blood flowing. Now, so going back to this part here, whenever the blood flows out of the lungs and it has not passed any part of the body, I mean, it is rich in oxygen, and then when it flows out of the heart to the rest of the body, remember, because out of the heart it can be to the rest of the body or to the lungs. Okay, if it's to the rest of the body, before it enters any part of the body, it's rich in oxygen, and whenever it passes the body, it is rich in carbon dioxide. See, it has passed through the head, it is rich in carbon dioxide. So the other side naturally will be rich in oxygen. And the special one for the lungs, when it goes to the heart, it's rich in oxygen. When it's returning to the lungs, it's rich in carbon dioxide, because the lungs is where there's gaseous exchange taking place. So oxygen enters the blood, carbon dioxide leaves the blood, okay, or leaves the body. Oxygen enters the body. So when oxygen enters the body, naturally the amount of oxygen will be high. And because also the carbon dioxide is removed from the body, and all the carbon dioxide from the body is carried to the lungs or transported to the lungs to be removed. So that's why it has a lot of carbon dioxide. And for the rest, remember, as long as it has not passed any body part, whether it's the body or the head, it should be rich in oxygen. But once it leaves the body parts, it is rich in carbon dioxide. Okay, so back to this question here. We want only rich in oxygen, so it must be from the lungs to the heart, and from the heart to the small intestine. Now for the small intestine, it's quite interesting, because sometimes they ask about amount of digested food also. So remember one more thing: when the blood has passed through the small intestine, it is of course rich in carbon dioxide, but it is also rich in digested food, because we learn in the digestive system, digested food is absorbed into the bloodstream through the walls of the small intestine. Okay, so when the blood passes through the small intestine, digested food enters the bloodstream. Okay, next part here. The graph shows how two activities affect the amount of blood flowing to each body part. Okay, so during running or during any exercise, blood will definitely flow to the muscles that require more oxygen and digested food, because again, it's to release more energy. Since blood is flowing to that particular organ, less blood will flow to the small intestine. Alright, because again, we have the same amount of blood. We are not gonna, the body is not gonna increase the amount of blood. So if more blood is transported to the legs, of course, less blood is gonna go to the small intestine. So based on the graph, compare the volume of blood. So this is a very straightforward question. It's just a comparing question. But remember, our technique use words from the questions, especially if there's a graph. So compare the volume of blood flowing per minute to the small intestine between resting and running. It's only in the small intestine between resting and running. So we can say amount of blood. Okay, where do I get these words? From the graph itself. Flowing to the small intestine is higher. Okay, is higher during resting than when running, or then during running, doesn't matter. Now, sometimes students stops here. Okay, what do they say? Amount of blood flowing to the small intestine is higher during resting, and then they don't have this next part here. They don't have that part. Now, I've seen students get penalized when they did not have this word then. Okay, so it's safer to say then something. So whatever types of question, if you have to compare whatever topic, it's safer to have the word then when you are comparing. Next, based on the graph, explain how running after a meal affects the absorption of digested food into the small intestine. So there's a direct answer here actually. We can say the based on the graph, explain how running after a meal affects the absorption. So we use the word from the question. Running after a meal will result in less food being absorbed. Less digested food. Alright, so as I'm typing, I'm looking at the question to make sure I'm using the right word that I copy from the question. So running after a meal will result in less digested food being absorbed into the small intestine. And this is an explain question, so we cannot stop there. We will start with the observation. Observation, this is a very important tip I'm going to give you. For the observation, if there is a graph, the observation comes from the graph, meaning you use the words in the graph. Okay, it can be all of them or some of them. Okay, so look at how I'm going to use the word from the graph. Okay, so I will say, hold on. Okay, as the amount of blood intestine, I'm not sure why this is wrong. Okay, never mind. As the amount of blood flowing to, again, focus on what they are asking, not to each body part, but they're asking only about the small intestine. Flowing to the small intestine, here we can say, let's read the question again, affects the absorption. Okay, so the amount of blood flowing to the small intestine decreases when running, so less food can be absorbed through the walls of the small intestine into the bloodstream. Okay, we can say something like that. Decreases when, so less food can be absorbed through the walls of the small intestine into the bloodstream. Or we can say, so less food, we can talk about rate actually, because here affects the absorption of digested food into the small intestine. We can talk about rate. Okay, so instead of writing less food can be absorbed, we can say, so the rate of food being absorbed decreases. So the rate of food being absorbed into the bloodstream through the walls of the small intestine decreases. We can see it like this. I think this is better. Okay, so again, running after a meal will result in less digested food being absorbed into the small not into the small intestine, into the bloodstream. But here it says into the small intestine. Okay, so we just stick to it, into the small intestine. Okay, so we try to follow the method using words from the question. Okay, and the explanation, as the amount of blood flowing to the small intestine decreases. Alright, where do we get that from? From the graph. So the rate of food being absorbed into the bloodstream through the walls of the small intestine decreases. Alright. I'm not sure why I have blank pages here. Okay, but this is, or these are the main type of questions that they usually ask, and I've covered the key phrases. Okay, so here is just a simple question again, the same part, the same type of question, blood rich in oxygen. So we just recap this, and then we recap the whole lesson, and we are done. Now, this is other body parts, always return to the heart. Okay, so if this returns to the heart, probably this is the lung, because we have the heart and the lungs. And whatever comes from the lung is rich in oxygen, and the opposite is CO2. And we have not passed through the other body parts. It's rich in oxygen and rich in CO2. So it's good to write notes like this. Okay, so T must be the lungs, U must be the heart. So we know the answer is number 3. Alright, so back to the key phrases. So here is one key phrase. Alright, amount of blood flowing decreases. rate of food being absorbed decreases. Okay, and then don't forget the blood flow. Okay, the blood flow is here. Okay, the blood flow and the rich in oxygen, or blood rich in oxygen, and blood rich in carbon dioxide. Alright, and then this is also a key phrase here, so this is important. Okay, thank you for watching. So that's all for this topic, quite a short topic. Hopefully it's beneficial. It's going to help you answer your questions answer the questions in your exam paper. Again, if you feel that this is helpful, please consider subscribing. Thank you very much, and until the next time.